the nice young man was driving me over here. It was like getting the homemade stuff is always just so cool. And this really cool Helsing bag shows up, and it's got a little pocket for my phone, and I'm very excited. My phone of evil. I have so many fabulous plans for Helsing when and if it finally comes through. I'm very excited. Of course, I have no. I'm just going to get that out here right now. There is no news on Helsing.
Don't say if, say when.
I'm such a realist, though. It's yeah, anything could happen. But at the moment, every time I go up to Funimation, it's like, can I talk about Helsing? They're all like, no. They last year when they announced it. I don't know. Was anybody here for the announcement of Helsing last year?
Yeah.
Easily 3 hours before that, I was in the Fabric District downtown with the heads of production of Funimation. I was like, so any news on Helsing? They're like, nah, you'll know when we know. And then they did that, and I said, no, you won't. We lied. We won't tell you anything. I love Funimation. I really do. It's my favorite. It's my favorite anime company at the moment.
Shaky.
There's a couple. No, they're actually, I will say I did several years working for Pioneer and Jenny On. I did a little bit of work for A-Division, a tiny bit of work for A-Division. And going to Funimation, I did Back Mongolian Chop Squad at Funimation. It was like walking into the Wonka factory. They get a lot of crap for the stuff they did early on when they were like learning the ropes. But man, like walking in there, I had that moment where like, you're going to be the last one standing. Everyone else is going to go out of business. You're going to be fine. This is amazing. It's a well-oiled dream factory. I'm just... Can I go to the trailer department and tell them what they can't use? Oh my God! Yeah, no, I love Funimation. They do things very, very well. So yes, if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand. I won't necessarily stop what I'm saying to bogey you, but I will at least acknowledge that yes, I'll get around to it. And like, yeah, that'll work right there.
Okay. What inspired you to enter into anime anyway?
Yes, I can begin at the beginning. So, this is very weird, I just have to say, doing panels like this, because you're expected to talk about yourself in the sort of way that anybody with civilized parents has been trained not to talk about themselves. So this always feels really, really weird. You know, I'm just getting that out there so that we can all be uncomfortable together. That was good nervous laughter, thank you. So I was born. I was sort of born into a film and theater family. My whole family, I am fourth generation film at the very least. My great grandmother was a silent film actress. My great grandfather was a silent film producer. One of my grandparents was a playwright and screenwriter. The other one was a producer. My uncles were television executives, film producers, second unit directors. My mother was an actress and a casting director. My father was a screenwriter. It sort of is just very, very few college graduates in my family is what I'm trying to say. You sort of get in there, and we have one uncle who's a lawyer. He doesn't, we don't talk about him. Lives in Australia. We don't see him very often. So it's very much we were born and raised in my family to pay attention to film and theater and understand how things work and how stories and structure are put forward, and to watch each other's material and be horribly critical of it as only family can. And like I can even remember being like maybe 10, 11 years old and turning in an English assignment. Like what is that? Like 6th grade, and like having family members going, there's like 3 perspective changes in like this is what, like 2 paragraphs, 3 perspectives. Just right. This is really, and we were fun that way. We torture each other. We still torture each other lovingly. And since I'm going, actually, I remember my grandfather would have a lot of weekly dinners. We would have people over, phenomenal writers and actors and directors, Terry Southern and Roddy McDowell, and all these people would come to dinner, and the sort of energy of the family, if I could sort of encapsulated with one evening. Things got political, and someone very solemnly, the whole family was there, and someone very, very, in the heat of the moment asked my grandfather, like, it was on capital punishment, was, well, you just don't know how you would feel. How would you feel if one of your children was, like, raped and murdered? And he went, oh, I don't know, which one? Sort of where we all come from, and we all sort of sit there and go, oh, that was good. Yeah. My grandmother's going for heart surgery. She's like, getting her a pacemaker? No, Christmas. sort of the energy. So I was working as a child actor at the time. This is all going to where you're going with this going. I was working as a child actor. I barely saw schools as a kid. I worked pretty much nonstop from 6 months on to the age of 13. Surrounded by wonderful working professionals and adults. I would do my 2 to 3 months at school, and then I'd end up getting a gig, and that would be 4 months out, and then you're just tutored in a room with maybe 2 other kids. So I didn't actually know really that many children until I was in my early teens. That can be a horrible surprise. Have you all met children before? Awful! Hideous, vicious little things. Every last one of them. And so I kind of panicked a bit when I hit school, because I was used to this life as a professional, and people being very dignified and being intelligent and rational and not violent. All these things that just don't exist in high schools. And so I panicked a bit, and thankfully I found some great people. This was 1990. And thankfully I found some other misanthropes who were also wondering what was wrong with everybody. Nick DeBar was one of those. He's now works for one of the video game, he's in video games somewhere. But this friend of mine that I made at the time, he was still a kid, but thankfully he was so screwed up that he didn't count, thank God. I was really into Japanese animation, and that didn't exist at the time. Like, there weren't kids into Japanese animation. And I know, it just, I mean, like, literally we would go to cons, we were the youngest people I was at Anime Con 91, I think I might have been the young. Do you remember?
So, I remember your costume at Anime Con 91.
Thank you.
What was it?
Oh,
Ryoga.
It was Ryoga V.
Oh, God.
Those photos exist somewhere. After Ryoga was Inaba from Urusei Atsura, which you'd have to really know your obscure stuff for that. And somewhere there's an Ixer 1, but I'm not telling where. Thank God that no one remembers that that's a girl.
You made it on Japanese TV.
We did, yeah. Like my first year. Oh yeah, I'll get that. That's on the direction of this. That's right. Clip. Now I'm feeling like an idiot. It's on YouTube. You can actually find. I'll tell you where to find it. But so I'm getting into there's really no anime industry yet. It's very, very thin. Not a lot exists. Robotech has been kind of running other than that, and like, you know, somewhere in the ancient history was Star Blazers and 8-Man and Speed Racer. I really get into it. I really start digging this stuff. Gekigen no Kitaro, Saint Seiya, Ranma 1/2. This stuff is just really rocking my world. And like Blade of Kamui, Dagger of Kamui, they got released with Blade. That really, if you've never seen that, you probably, I don't even know if it's still watchable, but that changed my life as a kid. It was really cool because it's this amazing story arc that was unlike anything I'm somebody, even at 13, I knew to recognize good storytelling and watch interesting ways of telling any sort of story or fable. And it's these 3 samurai with special weapons who have to defeat this demon, and they go through these terrible trials, and much in the traditional Japanese anime style, terrible things just keep happening. They're living lives of pain and suffering and denying themselves every earthly pleasure to eventually get to the point where they can beat this guy. And then at the very, very end, it turns out that they didn't have to do any of that, and it didn't matter anyway, and no one cares. And I was... Yeah, it's like real life. That's awesome. Everything sucks and it's not worth it. Oh! And growing up on a strict diet of American cartoons, especially American cartoons that hadn't been influenced by Japan yet, you didn't know that cartoons could be used to tell real stories, and so it kind of blew my mind. I was like, I gotta figure out what's going on here, and this is, you know, I gotta start showing people this. This is really cool. Dubs had just started, and they were 95% of them were unwatchable. They were really bad. There's a lot of reasons for that, and I can go through a couple of them really quickly. There's a learning curve. No matter what, there's just a bloody learning curve. There's no fighting the fact that there's a learning curve. There's a reason why, you could be the biggest Doctor Who fan in the world. There are some of those early episodes you're just not going to watch. And you can see the learning curve on Doctor Who, where they're figuring out what they're doing. If you go back to 1967 and slowly start making your way through, it can be painful. Rewarding, but painful. So at that time, there's not really much of an anime reality like this. It doesn't really exist. And then we get a phone call at one point, because some Japanese game show wants to do a thing on American anime fans. And they're like, can you come downtown, to downtown LA, next week? I'm like, yeah, I can come to downtown. Actually, I think you were the one who gave me the phone call, yeah. It's like, yeah, show up at downtown LA next week. And I'm like, all right, sure. And they had assembled, I had no idea what to expect since it was like 20 minutes from my house. But I show up and they had somehow flown out every cosplayer in the United States. Just about every cosplayer in the United States, like all 14 of us. To the top of this hotel. Where we shot this ridiculous little thing for a show called Not a Photo of the World. You can find it on YouTube. It currently exists on YouTube. You can see almost every cosplayer. What year was that, like 91 or?
I would have to say it was
92?
Late 91, maybe it was before 92's convention.
It was before 92's convention, I remember that. So I'm like, okay, so that was, so I'm like 15 years old. And suddenly every cosplayer in the United States is in town for the weekend. They're all from out of town, and I'm like, well, I suppose I have to entertain all of these 20-something, the 19 to 22-year-olds who've just shown up at my house. So we end up hot tubbing at a friend of mine's house from high school and partying, and we sit at the hotel all night watching video. Walter Amos pulls out the videos from hell, and
it was a 14-person convention.
It was crazy.
We were in a hotel. And they had paid rooms for us, and we had a place to stay and do all this stuff. And then when we were done with the shoot, well, hey, let's hang out, guys.
We just hot tubbed and just chilled out for the rest of the week. And it was really, and that was the first time I'd ever seen videotaped cosplay. We had done cosplay at AnimeCon 91. This was the first time I had watched it recorded, if you can imagine, on VHS. We're like, whoa, God, we got to actually watch. I mean, it was really. Dale has been putting up tons of videos, by the way.
Oh, I got to check that out.
You're all over. They've got one of your with the umbrella and from Akon.
Oh,
that awful. Do you remember that awful thing you did? Yeah. That's on tape and it's on YouTube now. Just let you know. I watched it 3 days ago. I was laughing. So some of this is now thanks to Day Engelhart, who is a Lupin cosplayer, is now on the internet for you to peruse. So all this is going on, and I'm staring at, and fandom is kind of starting in this weird sort of way. And there's even a couple girls, four or five. It's 4 or 5 girls. It's cool. Yeah, there were no women. That was a big change. We'll get to that.
Unless you're counting Pam Bach.
Well,
who was the only hot girl at Akon over here.
Oh,
If chorizo meets olive oil.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've just unearthed a nearly 19-year-old inside joke that just happened. God. How did we become the old partners of this? I miss being too young to drink these days. Yeah, thank you, Akon, for that. Oh God! Oh yeah, no, not that story. Anyway, in that direction. So this is all going on, and we're the dubs are starting to get better. They're starting to figure stuff out. We don't really have digital technology. There's a lot of things we can't really do yet. Everyone's and I'm watching this stuff, and I'm still in high school, and I'm going, you know what? I think I know how to do this. I think I've figured this out. And I started taking notes and watching stuff and writing things down. And I started playing around with I started the very first anime club at my high school. There had never been one before, with my friend Vince. And bless the principal was so afraid of me. He was like, this anime club. He's like, this is not some sort of code for a gay and lesbian youth club, is it? I like, maybe. Does it mean that you can't stop by if we're having a club if I say yes? He's like, I don't want to know what you're up to, so that's fine. I still show up at my high school and he goes like, back. They love me there, really. They make me come and talk occasionally for my sins. I love talking high school, it's fun. So I start playing around with the AV club with like making dubs with my friends, and thankfully it's LA, so like, you know, it's LA and I'm in high school. Half these kids have like done films before, so I'm like, they've got decent actors, which is kind of nice. Like a bad episode of Veronica Mars, and it really bad episode. Animated episode. And we do a little bit of Ramo and Half, and we play around with that. We do a little bit of DNA Squared, and we play around with that. And finally, I'm like, you know, I'm at that point, I've got a summer job working for a Japanese toy import-export company, and I'm managing to get away to actually fly to Japan. I'm 16, 17 flying to Japan at this point. Like, my mind is blown. And while I'm out there, I watch on television this show called Evangelion. And and nothing will ever be the same again. That blows my mind pretty horribly. I'm like, I've got to dub this show. This is incredible. I've got to. This looks like a challenge. I want to dub this show. Not just like a little 5-minute clip. I want to do like 2 episodes. So I buy the Laserdisc while I'm in Japan. Laserdiscs are like DVDs, but they're like much bigger, like the size of a small pizza. And they have the better picture. Analog pictures. All right. I was held on to my Laserdisc player forever. It's like, no, it's an analog picture, which is analog does 2 things better than digital: more colors and curved lines, and that's all that animation is. So it's like improved picture quality for everything else but anime that annoyed the living hell out of me. I was also living with Brad DeMoss at the time. I'm sure some of you know who Brad DeMoss is. He used to host and he used to write for Laserdisc magazines, and he had this amazing collection, and he's just sitting there editing music videos all day, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, here, watch, and he's teaching me like how the system works, and God, I learned so much from that man. And so he and my friend John Jocelyn and my friend Enrique Galvez, we all sort of get together, and we're like, well, fuck it, we're going to dub 2 episodes of Evangelion. And we start working on it, and I start learning how this process works, because I'm fascinated by it. And I hear AD-Vision picks it up. AD-Vision is kind of a new company, relatively. They've been going on for a little bit, mostly a lot of adult releases. They were famous for the Penny Pack-In at one point, if I recall. And that all their adult tapes were different colors. So every now and then I'm throwing away old VHS tapes, and I find one that's purple, and I'm like, I wonder what's on this. As we say, coming soon from ADV. So I talked to Matt, and hopefully we're friends enough now that he won't mind me telling the story. And he said, "Sure, go ahead, dub your thing. I don't give a shit." I'm sure he was. I get the distinct impression I probably talked to him when he'd had a little bit to drink, which was my fault. And so I take the next year and I sit down with my friends, and do we dub Evangelion? I don't have masters, so I don't have M&E. We create our own music and effects track. We rescore Evangelion. We do some what is now called hard subtitling, which apparently is bad, but we were like, this is awesome. We actually went in we did what Funimation does, so we went in and scrubbed, Brad DeMoss went in and scrubbed some titles for us to change some of the Japanese language to English, which is kind of cute. And then I start calling up every person I can conceivably think of to come in and do voiceover for me, including I get a couple people from MTV's The Max to come in and do voices for me. Sarah, yeah, the little girl with the glasses, who I just love her voice. She's great. I get Roddy McDowell of all people coming. Shows up in like this red Corvette convertible. I'm like, Yeah, this is happening. All right.
I believe ADV's is still in denial that that was Roddy McDowell.
It really was. I have a thank you card from Roddy McDowell for coming in. Like, why are you sending me a thank you card for this?
It's
One of the
Ava
nicest
Gillen.
men who ever lived, by the way. I just have to put that out there in case anybody doesn't know. Any story you hear about Roddy McDowell being horrifically nice to somebody, they're all true. Till the day he died, like on my birthday, I would pick up the phone and just get this little happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Strange little feminine British man. Oh, yeah, that man was lovely. And I had my grandfather do a voice for me, and that's a whole story that I can find later. And then, funny enough, we needed equipment. I had no money because I was young, so we got my friend John's father worked for Dole Pineapple, so they got Dole Pineapple to give us literally a small grant to fund this project. Dole Pineapple. And so we did line it literally tape to tape. It wasn't digital, which means if we didn't hit the sync perfectly, didn't matter because it was on tape. You can't move anything on tape. Yeah, reel to reel, and we had to do the slow pickup and wait for time code to. I mean, it was a long, grueling. And I will say I recently rewatched it and was like, wow, that holds up okay. For 95, I'm proud, but God, oh, thank God I got better. I was kind of amused. There's no lip sync at all. It's kind of a big mess, but. I was of the opinion at the time lip sync didn't matter, and I was like, yes, it does. It's just really hard, and you didn't want to admit that. That'll happen on occasion. Are there any other questions while I continue rolling around, and I'm happy to talk about stuff? So this is kind of how I ended up in here. So I made this demo. ADVision was not too pleased, but thanks to Enrique, who is one of the smoothest talkers I know on God's green earth. Yay! He kind of got us out of trouble with the agreement that I would never ever show it again. And ADVision very politely took my master tape and archived it for me. Probably somewhere in Juarez. It's okay because last week I was digging in my archive. Oh look, it's my Evangelion dub. I should digitize that. So I did it.
Yay!
A little later I'll show you a couple clips of this thing, which is not since I don't think ADVision is really going to mind anymore, and thankfully Matt got married to a lovely girl who was like, oh, give it up, Talison's nice. He's like, okay. If you ever met Matt, he goes, all right. Now we're at the point where we're like, hey man, dude, all right. We are now, so I'm sure you won't matter. And besides, now it's Funimation who has it now, so really I'd be pissing them off at this point. I do that every day. So.
How do you like the new Ava?
I quite like it actually. I've only seen the first two. Mike McFarlane's kind of here's the thing about Ava. I really, on a certain level, there comes a point where you just can't do it anymore. The reason they keep changing casts and the reason that there's so much turnover is because there just comes a point where you have to say enough. It's really, I wouldn't have believed it before, but there's a thing like in theater where there's certain plays in theater that you just don't do for too long because they'll kill you. Marat Sade, if anyone, the persecution and assassination of Jean-Paul Marat, is one of those plays. I had one of my actors actually did the film of that even, and he was like, it was the most grueling, intense, awful experiences. I'm glad I did it, but I can never do it. You never do it again. It breaks you. You go home sobbing, and Eva is kind of like that, or.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Where there were it's the only show, and like I've had some bad days. I've had some bad days this year. I've had days where I just didn't want to deal, and not since Evangelion have I literally had a day where I the alarm went off. I pulled the alarm out of the wall, went back into bed, curled into a little ball, and just sobbed. that happened easily twice while working on Evangelion, where I was just I've nearly hospitalized myself. I've gone days without sleep. I've missed 4 meals in a row. I have never cried. Except for Evangelion. I wasn't even directing the thing. I was just doing assist work, and it was just yeah, we were all inking in little tattoos for ourselves. So the final cut goes here.
Oh God!
Amanda, Jason, we're just, oh God, we're still going. Okay. And mean, there were fun moments we got into it at one point we were like starting to work on the mix of it, and I'm just helping out a little bit with the mix, and Amanda's just staring. It's like, the Avas aren't making any noise. Why aren't the Avas making any noise? What do you mean the Avas aren't making any noise? She's like, they're not making any noise. That was true. All the robots, like Japan, had randomly sent tapes without noises for the Ava units. They had just removed them for a surprise, like a present. Except there's nothing there. So it's like they said that they would give you a present and didn't. Just a box wrapped up, and you open it up and it's empty. It's a surprise. It's imaginary portal. I don't know. It's just nothing. And we were sort of staring going, what are we going to do? And so we start digging around for the most interesting, like we tried getting human voice, and it was like, it's not quite working with human voice. It's just not creepy enough. And finally Amanda stumbles on yaks. Have you ever heard a yak scream? I don't know how you get a yak to scream. Because we couldn't watch it, we could only hear it, because there's a track labeled in our giant archive of sound effects, yak scream. What's a yak scream sound like? I don't know. It sounds apparently like an Ava unit. If you want to know. It's the most horrifying sound I got. It sounds like people. I mean, like it sounds like a person. It sounds like a baby being tortured, except the baby is like full size, so like the pitch is all weird. It's that. Except it's like. It actually, that sound gave me nightmares on. Like I actually had nightmares about like people slaughtering yaks. Think about it. It's horrible. That is the sound of Ava Unit 1 losing its shit. That's beautiful. And we had, I don't want to say we had so much fun working on Ava, but we didn't. But man, we much like, it was like Shawshank Redemption. We found our moments of beauty and solace where we could, between the ritual prison rapes.
Oh, God.
Ava, there was prison rape. That's my new bylaw. Evangelion, there was a little bit of prison rape. Yeah. I miss Amanda. She's sweet. Amanda and Jason are great. And then we did that commentary, which apparently I'm still getting crap for today, which really amuses me. Because I'm like, man, I don't even have I usually have my beanie on for that, but I didn't bring my Ava beanie. I used to have an Ava beanie. It was a little, you know what a beanie is, right? Does everyone know what a beanie is? It's a little, it looks like a
yarmulke.
Like the Wright brothers yarmulke. It's like a little tiny circle you put in with a little propeller, and it's a little rainbow colored. I'd wear it whenever I did panels on Evangelion, so that anything I said didn't be taken too seriously. It's like if you try and quote me later, it's like, this guy said this, 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 and this. And I'm like, well, who was this guy? I don't know. He was wearing a beanie. Dude, you're stupid. Don't take anything too seriously. Yeah. Any other questions before I randomly go off on a tangent? I can't tangent. Oh, we reached the 10-minute mark? I'll take a quick question and I'll show some stuff and keep talking.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for all the work you were doing for Ava, because it really changed a lot of lives. And I like listening to the commentaries and all of it. And yeah, I was wondering if you could tell us like a little bit more about the people who you worked on it with, like voice actors. And
for Ava or?
For Ava.
Okay, I will say I didn't direct Ava. I just, what was my official title? Ava Monkey. I was the Ava Monkey. So I was basically there to kind of like, quick, we need research into this one thing, we don't know how it's spelled. Or like, what the hell are they talking about here? And it's been like, I don't know, let me close your panel. Manga's release of Ava was really kind of a lot of fun, just because Amanda's a really fabulous director, and she's great to work with. She has a wonderful philosophy of how to get things done. She got a lot of crap for that, for some of the stuff that she did with Ava, but I am of the opinion, I'm still of the opinion, I will defend this opinion, that there's a reason that those particular dubs still stand up. A lot of times I've noticed this, a lot of times things that are lauded at the moment, like decisions that are like, people are like, yeah, that's the way to do things within 8 years, and especially in this community, like, why the hell did they do that? That's stupid. And then stuff like, what the hell were you thinking? And it's like 8 years later, you're like, that was my favorite part of the whole show when you did that. I'm like, yeah, I know why I did it. The internet can shut up, so. I don't look at the internet. The internet is a bad place.
Hear, hear.
Which is weird considering that we're practically like in the 4chan factory right now. You walk around the floor going, fresh meme. Really, working on Ava was I'm trying to think of a good. I can actually for the movies I don't really have very many good stories. All the good stories really came out in the commentary because at that point we had a beer that was the end of the whole run and we were all kind of like, oh my God. So we were all kind of out of it at that point. I can tell some interesting Ava stories on my end from when I was doing my fan dub, which would be a little bit. Just because I never talk about it really as a... While I was working on my fan dub, I was living in Japan for part of the time. I was out there, and I found some of the only Western occult bookshops in Tokyo. I'm a book collector. I love books. I love occult. I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I was like, I want to be Giles when I grow up. That's what I want. And so I have what is now amounted to a pretty decent occult book collection. I know people who have better. I have seen a first edition printing of the collected letters of John Dee. I've held it in my hands and gone. Yeah, like this. How often you pick up something that was printed in the 17th century, early 17th century, I'm just, ugh. Can I touch my hands touch this? I'm like, yeah, forget it. Just open it up, read a little. Yeah, that's my friend. I have a friend who has a really nice collection. But I've got some beautiful books. I've got the first edition Rosicrucian Codex English edition. I'm from like 1937, 27, I think. Beautiful stuff, and that I use it comes out, and I use a little bit of it for Helsing every now and then, or some stuff. Occasionally, I just need to, like, Grand High Arch was one of those weird little titles that didn't translate in Japanese properly, so I corrected Integra's ranking in the Masons to the correct ranking. So I was like, oh, they fussed it up. This is what her ranking in the they refer to as Grand High Arch, which is technically what she would be in the Masons. So. Things like that, like weird, stupid little things that make me giggle and make 4 people at a Congo, dude. After 10 years. I know I'm going to run a little, fuck it. I was at this occult bookstore in Tokyo, and they were like looking at what I was picking up, and I was picking up a lot of Kabbalistic texts and stuff like that, because I was looking for research material. And the guy starts like losing his shit. Like, oh, you're an Eva fan. And like trying through English. Like, Eva. I'm like, yeah, I'm a big Eva fan. He's like, oh. And he pulls out his homemade like occult zine, all about Evangelion. And we end up nerding out. I buy a copy from him. But like, it's like a doujinshi, except it's instead of porn. Instead of porn, it's occult nerd porn, and where he's been mapping everything out. I'm like, oh. Dude, you rock! And like we go through it, and then I end up with this giant stack of books from this guy. And I wish if I had known where that was, I would have dug that out. But like that thing is now, I sold it for meth years ago. I don't know. What was that other thing? No, it was that other thing that was like meth. I was like, oh God, what was that? It was right, Soul of Chogokin. That's right. $250 a pop. What the hell? Very big metal robot collections. For boys who don't yet have better things to do with their money than spend it on giant metal robots that take up shelf space that now are filled with books. My little brother, I watch my little brother play with them now, and all I'm thinking is, there's $350 worth of toy that's currently smashing into Kratos. He doesn't know. So I'm trying to think of something fun to show. Does anybody... So this is the terrible. Everybody knows Eva pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you'll hear Brad Moss in this.
The second angel attack. It came too soon.
Just like 15 years ago, disasters never give you time to prepare. At least the attack showed our funding of you, Mr. Akari, was a somewhat worthwhile investment.
We don't know that yet. This project may still prove to be worthless to us.
Very true. In the future, you must make plans to restrict the information being received by Tokyo 3. This project must remain classified. The type of funding you require would make us look very wasteful.
Be assured, the matter's already been taken care of.
I don't use that one. It's for sleeping.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Enjoy your food.
Thanks.
What's wrong with dinner? I know it's just microwave, but it's good.
I'm not used to such good food.
What was that? Don't be so picky.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean,
This is great. I love having company for dinner. Ready? Jean, Ken, pose. 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 Oh, bad luck, Shinji. You get to do most of the household chores this month. You should unpack today. Feel free to grab anything to help you feel at home. Oh, yeah. It's so depressing. Be a man. Pull yourself together, damn it. I know. I've got a great bath. Go try my bath. It will cure your gloomy soul. Yeah, Shinji? Oh, him? A new kind of hot spring penguin. His name is Pen Pen. He's our third roommate. By the way, cover up. People come.
Just one.
I do. So do I. Wishing for rebuilding? That's strange. I'm sure this is the right way. I really don't like to wear a skirt in this place. Where was this go again? I'm sorry this is taking so long.
we've already passed through here.
Well, don't worry. The paging system exists to be used.
Chief of Project Team, Section 1 of Technical Department, Dr. Akagi Ritsuko. Dr. Akagi Ritsuko, please contact Captain Katsuragi Misano in Section 1 of Operation Department immediately.
Incredible. She's lost again. Let's go. Where have you been, Captain Katsuragi? We are short on personnel and time. Sorry. So, he's the boy? Yes, the third child according to the Marduk's report. Hello.
Hi.
You can see the resemblance to his father, even in spirit.
I'll leave things to you for now.
So you meet again after all these years.
Sub-Commander, the target's begun to move.
All right then. Red alert. All hands to battle stations.
Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for interception of the enemy.
We'll kill there for the moment. I'm sure I'll at some point.